Hello, everyone. We are recording. So for those who are just joining the recording, we are doing our pre-mortem to try to anticipate what kinds of risks might take place. So I have a document that I started, and I see that everybody is in it except Ahmed. I'll put it in the chat so that we can have that. I just sent it out a little while ago. This is mainly an opportunity for us to take notes on this, but I also figured I'd put my own brainstorming in there and do that. So before, I guess, I'm prepared to talk through some of my scenarios, but I would love to, I guess, let's just start with some of the scenarios. And from the thinking that you guys have done, what do you think are some scenarios that are sort of realistic as to the situation that we might be in when, you know, if the deployment did not work properly?
Cool. And then Nolan, just from a roles perspective, are we kind of like each trying to type these things? Are you capturing them as we go?
I'll capture. I'm happy to capture. And I think on my Zoom screen, the order is sort of, the left to right order is Mark, Olivier, Jay, and Ahmed. So if you guys don't mind, let's just sort of go through that and run through some scenarios pretty quickly. So, you know, I think the best way to do this will be to sort of capture scenarios first, and then sort of engage in what are the ones that we think are most likely and spend a little bit more time talking about those.
Cool. Mark, what do you think?
No, I'm reading through the scenarios. I like this. Sorry, just.
Hey, Nolan, quick question. I'm sorry, like, did I miss something? Were we supposed to come up with scenarios before this meeting?
I had sent an email yesterday, but it may have been a little bit late. So if you have some scenarios, that's fine. But if not, we can use this to talk through. And it's fine for people to respond to the scenarios that I put in the document. So obviously that's there as a starting place. But I think it also, I don't know that these are necessarily complete. So I think it would be worthwhile thinking through, are there other scenarios that might arise that I hadn't thought of?
Okay. Do you think I mean, and I'm asking everyone, do you guys think that it would be maybe best to start with maybe what you have and then build on that? Maybe we have different scenarios. We can come up with different scenario after going through those.
Okay.
I think I might vote the other direction, Ahmed, if you don't. Which is just like if we could stack it to more like 10 scenarios quickly and then really get into the diagnosis of them. Then we'll kind of know more of the landscape of the stuff that we might cover. Maybe Nolan, why don't you give us that, like, just so we have a verbal to go with our text, why don't you give us the headline of the 3 scenarios you've written out so that we have them in our head?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. So it's sort of a little bit of a hybrid of what you guys are both suggesting. So I'll run through the scenarios that I have, and then we can add other scenarios that we may not have thought of. So the scenario 1 is that basically the guards are very friendly and followed the process while we were there. So we did it. The guards did exactly what we sort of suggested they would do. Everything seems to be working when we're there. But when we get back home, we find that they're not actually using the system and they just reverted to the status quo. The scenario 1A that I fleshed out is similar to that. They don't say that, I guess scenario 1 comes without a lot of feedback. And scenario 1A is that we get that with a little bit of feedback, and I imagine hearing an awkward conversation with Boniso where he says, well, you know, and this is really my fault, not your fault, but it really would be a lot better if we did X, Y, or Z, you know, where it's sort of like, you know, that conversation would be, I think the realistic scenario there would be feeling like, he feels responsible. He feels like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm disappointed. But like what we realize now is that it really just would work a lot better, or maybe we should try it this other way. Scenario 2 is around resident pushback or lack of buy-in. So the guards are trying to do it, but like the residents show up and the guards say, hey, do you have the app? And the residents say, I don't know, can I just sign the sheet? And it's sort of like the residents are fumbling with their phone, or their phone is in their purse, or for whatever reason, the residents just don't want to go and show that. A variety of this scenario would also be that maybe there's even some direct pushback where the residents are feeling uncomfortable about data, and they're like, well, who's tracking this, and where are they, and why do we have to use an app? And this just feels very different and feels foreign, and I don't know, there's something that makes me uncomfortable about it. So that could either be sort of like through neglect, or some direct pushback around privacy. And then the third scenario that I had in mind was some technical or design issues. And this could be that the app feels slow, or it feels confusing, and it feels complicated to use, or that there could be issues with the networks, that the data is really slow, or we send the text message confirmation, but the text messages arrive 3 minutes after the gate scenario. That there's some latency in the network there that we're not used to. Could even be that the phones are not charged, right? It occurred to me as I was thinking about this that we have phones that use U.S. power outlets. So we bought phones as a backup, but they use the U.S. power plug. So we could get other phones that have the 220 volt or other chargers while we're there. So that could be the kind of thing, sort of like what would be the sort of technical issues. And then there's another class, I guess a different variant on this scenario is that it's more design issues, where it has to do with people don't understand the concept, or there's too many click-throughs to do it, or we didn't anticipate properly around what a guard needs versus what a resident needs, or there's some use case that we didn't anticipate. Maybe I would even split that into another one, which is an unanticipated use case. Yeah, so I'm going to make that a fourth scenario. So I think the scenario 3 is more around the thing that we designed for is in fact the thing that we still want people to do, but we find that we didn't implement the app or the technology in the right way. And scenario 4 would be that actually people want to do something different than what we anticipated. So that's a run through of my initial thinking of sort of like what those scenarios might look like. Let me open it up and what do you guys think? What other scenarios or could happen?
There's the first one that jumped to mind that I didn't hear was the internet connection. The internet connection not being reliable enough for people to be able to actually do this on the go.
I think there's a scenario that's in my head, Nolan, that is like that we spend like in every conversation introducing the app to a guard or maybe somebody at the showroom, we spend like, let's say the conversation is 10 minutes and we spend 9 of it us talking and 1 of it them trying. And so it's actually like, oh no, it's constantly just us doing the thing with no real kind of like trial on their side. And then we walk away and try to observe, and really there was just no uptake. So I guess what I'm saying is this all scenario is sort of around that the way we think we will do the training is like not actually the way people learn how to use this particular type of thing.
Yeah. I like this thinking, Jay. I almost feel like that's a diagnosis of what we did wrong. Can you so let's imagine that we did do that that's how you and I behaved while we were there. What do you think would be the end result? How would that come back to us after the fact? And what scenario would we be in when we get back to San Francisco?
Well, I think nobody, I mean, the scenario we would be in is that no one will be using the application because they have not learned how to use the application.
Yeah.
And so it has nothing to do with disinterest. It just has to do with learning.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That is very distinct from many of the scenarios that we pitched that I had to walk through. Thank you.
I think that there's another scenario in my head, which is basically like folks learned how to use it, but there were so few times that they could use it in the for guards. There were so few times that they could use the application compared to all of the other things they were doing that like there was no real adoption. Like only 1 out of 100 of the interactions that a guard dealt with could be used in with the application for each day. And so there's no kind of like flywheel of adoption.
So I have this as infrequent use because there wasn't enough flow of covered users, meaning that we just, and the diagnosis here is we weren't broad enough.
Yeah, or we weren't broad enough, or we didn't preload the system with like the people who are constantly going through the gates already, and we could have preloaded it.
Right. Like if only one 1/100th of users is in the system. Yeah. Yep, that's a very good one.
There's another one where it's like there's not a lot of adoption on the back end because we only trained 1 of 10 guards, and the training can't flow from the people we train to the rest of the guard group, and so only one portion of the access points are kind of like ready, like really deployed.
Great. Yeah, I'm going to put that as a sub-diagnosis within the same scenario. So this one is essentially around infrequency of use, and scenario 6 is I have around the lack of understanding.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
Olivier, I'm particularly interested in your take on this, since you're the only Zambian we have in the room.
Yeah. So I have one question and then one possible scenario. Are we just mentioning like the scenarios that could happen on the negative side of the research?
Yeah, we're focusing on the scenarios of what if something didn't work properly, and for whatever reason they're not able to use it. So we're only focusing on negative scenarios at the moment.
Okay.
And that's kind of because most of the time I tend to focus on the positive scenarios.
Yeah. So I think another thing that's relating to what Ahmed said. So Ahmed mentioned on connectivity, and another issue that's currently here is electricity issue. That's like actually bigger than the connectivity issue. So yeah, I think that's something that should be mentioned because it's really like a big issue at the moment. Because it's like 15 hours of load shedding here, 24 hours. So yeah, and actually that's one thing that you should be prepared for when you're coming here. Like carry some power backups and whatever you can.
Good to know.
So I'm going to ask you and Ahmed actually the same question that I asked Jay in his scenario. So it almost feels like the internet not working, or cellular connectivity doesn't work, or the electricity going out is almost our diagnosis of what went wrong. This is the reason for something being wrong. How would that actually manifest, and what would that, like, how does that lead to a scenario where it doesn't where for whatever reason that left us in a place where it was not deployed.
So my understanding is that if those two cases happen, is that we end up not. So we'll go back to scenario number 6, where the users end up not learning how to use the application because of lacking either power or connectivity. So we end up not being able to, not having enough time to practice using the application.
I look at it almost, there is a specific environment where we reach success, right? It only happens in a specific environment that requires a certain setup. You need the internet connection, you need the electricity, you need a certain setup for us to be successful. And anything that sort of compromises that environment, including the internet connection, could just create a layer of issues that just make this not as useful as, like, imagine, like when the electricity is down for a whole day, people don't get to have their phone charged and things like that. So at that moment when you say, hey, my phone is not charged, and the guard also lives like this with not having the internet for a whole day, you know, he's forced to be understanding and to be like, yeah, my phone isn't charged either, so just sign this paper, right? So it creates the environment that the wrong environment for our scenario to even be able to work.
Yes. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think we're actually getting to, I really like this because it almost feels to me like a slightly, like this diagnosis is almost, the scenario is, hey, one of the things that we learned is that this approach is not feasible right now in this time, right? It's like that. This is like, there's something that is sort of like, hey, there is one outcome at least, and maybe multiple, where the learning is actually, hey, this is not, we're on the wrong path, and this is not the right way to go about it. It's not that we did something wrong. It's that this is that we learned that this approach is not the right approach for this. So, and I think that that's actually really good to call out, Ahmed, because I think, and maybe we actually should think about some other scenarios where the learning is that it has more to do with not, we didn't do something right, but that there's something in the environment and that we need to sort of like regroup and take a very different approach than we're thinking of right now.
Yeah.
Are there other
playing off
scenarios
of, like, I mean, even jumping before we go to another scenario, but I can totally play this one forward and have some new ideas for things we might try, like either prep ahead of time or come back with, right? Like, so let's say we learned that load shedding is a huge challenge to a mobile first access experience at the gate. We might then assume there are two sides to that. Like, both the security team is going to struggle with power, and then anybody coming to the gate that's visiting, either contractors or potential residents or visitors or current residents, also have power problems. Well, maybe we can solve the power problem on the guard side by having solar-driven chargers for all the phones that we leave for them. So like we've actually got like several on the ways that we can set that up. And so we probably can't solve that problem on the individual devices that other people would bring, because that's too many folks and it's a little less controllable. But you could design a thing that basically says, actually, the guards are always going to have a list of preloaded folks with like photos and stuff like that, and they don't have to just scan another device. If your phone is down, you can look up all the pictures of the people and just like scan. It's only like 100 people right now, and see them and basically say like, yeah, you're still confirmed. Or even like, yeah, you're still allowed to show the sticker, but the guards are logging it into their devices from the sticker. And maybe they snap a photo of the sticker or whatever. So we at least have power on one side of the situation, and we do get some adoption from that.
Jay, I think we're realizing that we really do need to bring a lamination machine. This is, for those not aware, this is an inside joke that Sid has been saying, you know, if Jay needs to bring a lamination machine, that's what we need to do. And so
That's how we solve problems.
that's how we solve problems. But in seriousness, actually, Jay, I want to say, I think that's a really, really fantastic idea. You took something that in my mind was like a wrong environment. And those are very concrete things. We could have solar chargers. We could have a fast charging station for users, right? Like we could set up a generator that's right there and have some fast chargers that are ready to go, so that if a user wants to recharge their phone in 5 minutes, maybe that in conjunction with pre-scanned papers that have the resident list, a picture, and a thing that a guard can scan right there, maybe that's actually a sufficient workaround for now. So
we could also even have like resident loaner devices that we've preloaded with all the pre-approved folks, so that we can teach the behavior, even if
something we can all assume. But do you guys think it would be worth spending like just a minute or two actually defining what that success look like, so that we all sure that we're seeing it the same?
Okay, yeah, that's smart. Yeah.
You want to start, Norman?
yeah, Ahmed, that's astute. It's interesting that we don't have actually a good definition of success. I would say, I guess I think of it as two ways. I think baseline is we have 6 guards and you know, it's interesting. I was going to say just residents using it, but I think actually success is, I think the thing that we should be shooting for is that everybody who comes into the, everybody who comes in is using the application, and everybody who passes through the gate, so that all 6 guards are using it, and all of the contractors, all of the visitors, that everybody's using it. And I don't think I've articulated that even to myself as really the success criteria.
So a high rate of digital entry, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, basically, if while we are if we were to post a camera at the gate and record all the entries, what percentage of the entries are digital? And Nolan is suggesting that in the in the 1 week follow-up from our visit, 100% of the entries should be digital.
Yeah, and maybe that's a little aggressive. Like maybe it's like 90%, but that basically, and we could figure out sort of what the right KPI is there. But yes, I think this is it's a high rate of digital entry is the meta success scenario.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think that metric is probably way too aggressive, but I like the spirit.
We might want to define. I mean, we might want to define a secondary success, you know, a lesser success criteria. But do you agree that that's what an A+ is? Like, is that ultimately the thing that we're shooting for? And is it just that you think that that's not possible, or that that's not the right thing to be shooting for?
I think we know so little about the contractors that I have no idea what portion of contractor entries might be able to be digital at this point. No idea.
I think looking at how easily accessible the application is, I think even contractors should be easy to, like, it should be easy for them to use the application to go in. I mean, the guard, because even when they just reach at the gate, the guard can tell them, hey, get this application and request, and I'll give you access. So I think because it's something that won't take time. So I think even helping the contractors.
Like, I don't know if this is, I guess this is an idea of a thing to try, but like, would it be valuable to try to use the app to log all sticker entries via photo or via touching or whatever, so that like if we haven't actually like if for whatever reason we can't actually increase adoption to the degree that we want on the residents, new visitors, or contractor side, we at least have all of the all of the clicks being digitally captured on the guard side. That would be an interesting goal.
I want to come back to that earlier question, Jay, because you know it seems to me like, I mean, you even brought up the scenario that there's a flywheel that we're creating, right? And if we are not even aiming to have 100% adoption, like, I guess is it that you don't think that that's the scenario, or you're concerned that that's not realistic at this time?
I don't know. I think like the end goal for adoption is that all entries are digital, and that everything is mobile first. That's the end. That's the end. That is full adoption of the platform. I'm just generally assuming that like no technology rollout gets all customers right away.
Yeah.
Like that seems impossible.
So your question is not so much about what's the ultimate definition of success, but more what's the definition of success at the end of this 1 week of deployment, or week and a half of deployment.
Correct.
And also, if I do believe if we do say that the ultimate success is 100% digital entry, then it's fair to also say that we're assuming that that's what creates the most efficiencies, because our ultimate goal is not really is to make things efficient, fast, and sustainable. And so we're assuming that in order to get there, we have to have everybody entering through the entering digitally.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Well, I think what we're assuming is a few layers beyond that, Ahmed, where we're assuming that the city itself will be more efficient in all of its services if everyone is on a digital platform for many of its services. So, for instance, it probably in 3 years, if it was slightly slower at the gate but faster when you need to register a business, and faster when you need to like make your monthly payments and all that stuff might still make it a more efficient place to live, but it's like 1 step slower at the gate, and people are okay with that. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that people would be okay with it. But conceptually, a more efficient city might have a few moments where technology slows you down, but it speeds you up overall. We won't know that.
Yeah. So just in the interest of time, what I'd like to do is say that I think this has been incredibly helpful to talk about the goal. And I think that what we should do for now is realize that our goal is that all entries should be digital, and that is ultimately what we are aiming for. And also recognize, I guess, Jay, to your concern, we may not be able to get that in the course of this week and a half. And so let's leave that as an exercise for another conversation to see, is there a goal that we think we need to be setting for this week and a half that's like a little bit different. But I think that we should, I think, Jay, you and I should be thinking while we're there, how do we expand our scope into thinking about everything to making 100% digital? Because even that notion of the stickers that you just said, I think it's a very clear, practical way that we could actually achieve that right now, and just print out stickers with some QR codes so the guards are scanning the stickers as well. So I think having that as our site is going to be the most valuable thing, even if we don't 100% know that we can get it in this time frame, and don't necessarily beat ourselves up if we don't. But I think that's where we should be focusing.
Henan?
Yeah.
The stickers, are those just to facilitate to easily open the app?
Sorry, this is something we learned in our interviews, that the way that they're doing authentication now is they have an Inkwashi sticker that they'll put on the dashboard of a car or on the front windshield of a car. And that's how the guards know that people can come in now. So I think the idea is that we want to replace that sticker with the application. And what Jay had suggested was one possible thing that we could actually do is have those stickers actually be scanned through the app in the same way that we'd be scanning from a phone. And so that would be a medium tech solution where the app is still registering the sticker, but that the contractors themselves don't need to use that sticker. So it's almost like a vehicle sticker that has a QR code. And like, even just saying that out loud, Jay, it's sort of like, oh my God, we absolutely should be doing that. Like, I wonder if we can actually, print out QR codes on stickers right now and bring it with us. Because that just feels so, like, I know that I can't do that in Sulphur Springs, but if there's a way to actually get a printed roll of QR codes, that actually might be might be a very sort of tangible thing that we could do even in advance. That may be easier to get that here. I'm in fact going to take that as a to-do to just see if I can get something like that on Amazon.
Yeah, I think all you will need is a label printer, and you could do this at home. I've done something barcodes before with a label printer, so I don't see it being that different.
Could be a label printer. We could also just like get you use a regular printer and then get like some of sticker enclosures or something like that. I'm trying to think of like basically the pieces of plastic that it would go into, slide into.
Yeah.
Right. There's that Avery sticker paper, right?
Yeah.
You can
print
print
onto. Want to put it on their car. Hard to come off, but
yeah.
Sorry, I bought a label printer, Dymo label printer for I think it's about $60, so it shouldn't be something very difficult.
Yeah. Just so you know, the difficulty I have with this is actually the logistics of figuring out how to get that printer onto a plane with us to Zambia. Because where I'm going, I'm flying to Dallas right now, and where I'm staying in Dallas is actually 2 hours outside of the city. I'm in like a tiny, tiny town. So, and Jay, I know you're out of town this week. So.
No, but I'm flying from San Francisco, so like anything that arrives at my doorstep on Monday can be in my bag by Tuesday, and I can take 2 bags instead of 1 and check the bags, and that's only bag fees.
Okay, great. So I'll do. I'm gonna on my flight now. I'm gonna do a little bit of research around the label printer and stickers, and I'll share some ideas with you guys.
No, then maybe talking on the same subject. I was thinking, especially on the side of contractors, like to easily to give them easy access. Like we could also have a QR code, but that only facilitates to open the app. So instead of them typing the whole URL, they would just maybe point the camera to the QR code, maybe at the gate, where
like that.
Some at the gate. Yeah, then we just open the app and just continue. For people who don't.
So instead of having to type in the QR code, they snap a photo of and it opens up the URL to open up the app, and they move on from there.
Yeah, for like contractors.
I mean, but I think it would be assuming that the contractor have a phone that's sophisticated enough to do that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, some of them might not have such phones, but I think most phones now do have that.
Right now, it's not a ton of different contractors that are working on the site. Is my understanding. I think it's like 2 different companies, or maybe 4, or something like that. So it's not like we're dealing with a massive variety of companies. But maybe I'm misremembering. We'll have to learn that.
So guys, let's pause this because I just want to come back to this, the breadth of the different scenarios that we're considering. I think we have a really, really good tangible action item here. And we can all be thinking about this and communicating on Slack around other things that we might do in this. I think this is really, really good thinking here. Let's come back to some of the other scenarios and some of the other actions that might come around it. I guess let's just talk through some of the scenarios. Olivier, what do you think is the most likely scenario? Let's pick each person's most likely scenario that we're going to end up in, and then let's talk about each of those in the remaining sort of 15 minutes that we have.
Can I pick 2 or 3?
Yes.
Just have to pick one. Okay. So I think 5 is one of them. Then also 2 as well. Like 5 and 2. Those are like the highest scenarios that I'm looking at.
Okay. So let's talk about scenario 2. We really haven't. I feel like we've talked a lot about 5. Tell me more about 2, and what do you think are the possibilities, and what actions might we be able to take around it?
Yes. So with this one, I see people they don't easily adapt to new technologies or new things. So this is why I see it being a problem. Why you train people how to use it and everything, but once you leave, people don't keep using the application. And of course, we need to know why that consistent hasn't been there. But that's just something that's likely to happen because people just don't easily adapt to new things. I think that's the side where I'm saying it here.
So how would we feel it? What would we observe 2 weeks from now that would help us know that we're in this scenario?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So since we have a goal, like what we're saying, like would expect to have at least 90% of all walk-ins to be digital. So if you don't get that, then we'd know that the application is not being used as expected. So at least if we don't hit that 90% usage, I think that can be a good start.
I think there's another diagnosis, which is like we don't actually understand who's coming through the gate. Like we think right now that the percentage of people who are coming through the gate are like 50% contractors, 25%
residents,
and 25% people passing through. But maybe it's actually like 75% first-time visitors to the site coming from the showroom, and everything else is 25%. And like we just don't understand enough about first-time visitors. Yeah. Or maybe it's like actually 75% people passing through to their home on the other side of Nkwashi, and we know nothing about those folks. And we have very few opportunities to kind of like influence them, design into our either research when we're away from the site now, or whatever.
Yeah, and another.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say another thing could be like what Chris was saying, where maybe the users don't easily, like they don't see the app as easy to use as we anticipated. So that would also be another scenario, something we would have to get their feedback from.
Yeah,
knowing exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
So what can we do to help uncover this scenario now? And are there things that we can do to mitigate this risk? Like what evidence might we look for while we're there to sort of tell us that we're in this? And what are some things that we might do to either adjust while we're there or anticipate now and avoid it?
One of the things that comes to mind, Nolan, for me, on the second one, which is the thing that I mentioned, like maybe we don't really know who's coming through the gate. We may want to have, we have that like kind of, hey, shadow the guard, shadow the gate time built into our schedule there. We might want to have a clipboard for ourselves and just like dash, like categorize, try to dash categorize everybody who comes through the gate. Number one, we want to count how many times people come through the gate in a given day. On a Friday, it's like 3 times an hour. And then maybe we can also try to like, you know, log those. Hey, it's these categories. It's like we might have to ask the guards, was that like, who was that? Like, you know, on the back end, so that we can kind of like try to categorize it. And we'd have to go back to the drawing board in terms of figuring out how to design for those folks.
Yeah, I like that. I also wonder, like, you know, do we have a gate at the camera? Do we have a camera at the gate?
Maybe we should. They're just constantly recording.
Yeah. So that we can sort of like see what those interactions are like, both while we're there and after.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that? What's the reaction?
I think it makes sense actually. And I don't think that this is something weird, like having a camera at a security gate is expected anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine how easy.
Or say it again there.
Yeah, like so if we have a camera at the gate, how easy is it going to be to count how many people have, like, how are we going to make use of that, like the live recording camera?
Time lapse.
Maybe
You'll speed it up.
forward.
Yeah, you'll speed it up, and you can go through all of it in, I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour.
There's also a low-tech way of doing the exact same thing where, like, I'm assuming right now they are logging people on a clipboard. Maybe that's just an assumption. I can't remember whether whether they've told me that they do actually like write down everybody who comes through on a clipboard. But if they do, we could just snap a photo of that and sit down with Poniso and code like the existing thing. Like we could have a time at the end of the day where we schedule with Poniso to just like, you know, talk about how this day went and like walk through the list, like who's on using their existing stuff without having to have a video camera.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we could schedule a review of the logs with Poniso once a week for the next month to ask a question about like, hey, who came through today? Let's go one by one, and we're going to ask questions about who these people are.
Yeah.
May not
Let's come back to this question of people not easily adopting to new tech. You know, like what else can we do to sort of anticipate or understand what would actually help a resident want to buy into this?
I have a comment about that actually. I see exactly what you're saying when you did, but I don't necessarily agree with that being. I think people actually in Africa, even if you look at the stats, people are actually adopting technology a lot faster than in other places. Like, and when those adoptions happen, they happen very fast. It's just that there are things that get in the way, like some of those things in terms of the environment that allows that. There are things that get in the way. So usually when people aren't adopting is because there is something that we haven't covered that's getting in the way. It's not that people are actually resisting technology. They actually want it. They get excited about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I would point out the highlight would be when you board a plane, I still print out my boarding pass just because like it's easier than using the barcode. Half the time I'm in line, I'm looking for the barcode, the app doesn't load or it doesn't do something correct, and I always have the printed pass and it just works. And so that's an example of our technology like seems really cool, but when you actually like put it down to like, you know, real people using it, it's sometimes just easier to use the old stuff.
Yeah.
You know, thinking along those lines, like maybe one of the things that we should do is have an Nkwashi ID card that has your QR code on it. Like, you know, like maybe there's actually, what would be the equivalent of a boarding pass that you carry around with you? It would be like, you know, maybe an RFID, you know, maybe you have an RFID card that allows us to do some other things too, but maybe the app is not the right, is not the fail-safe thing that we have in mind, and we should be building an app, but there's also sort of like a physical card that we should be
A
building.
card does give you a sense of ownership, right?
Yeah.
Like you've been issued something and it's real.
Mark, this is a great point actually, and what it makes me think is maybe we should use it in a way that instead of making it all or nothing with the card, we use it in a way where the digital is complementing the physical. So what I'm thinking about is like I use the Cash App and I use Apple Pay most of the time, but I love to also have my card because in some cases it's better, right? So maybe something like that to where you start maybe also your way of requesting a physical. So at least the digital version, you can have it right away, and then you can request a physical card, and then you come pick it up. I don't know, after a week or something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, I think that would be very doable. I think his question is on the ground. Like, yeah, it's a getting them to buy into the idea of building this card system out.
Yeah. And I think there is something cool with, hey, you get the digital version and then go there and request the physical card. When you get something physical, there's something cool about it.
Yeah.
I love that idea, guys. Do we know how to act on that? I'm not even sure what to do with this.
Well, I guess what I'm inclined to do, I think all of this lays into the exact same plan that we had right now, because in terms of like being able to print out a sticker, it's kind of the same thing. That is the earliest prototype of that eventual version. But what I think the twist that we just made was that the sticker is a physical representation of something that is already digital, and that would be how we would talk about it. We basically like, hey, like it's digital first. Your ID is actually in your phone. If you'd also like to have a physical thing, here's this sticker. Like eventually these things will be a little like if you join Ninkwashi, you'll get a fancy card. But like for your first visit, it's just a sticker.
Yeah.
But know that hey, your ID card is right there in your phone.
Right. So Jay, I can totally imagine also being in the showroom and handing out Ninkwashi ID cards. Like maybe we need a lamination machine or something to be.
We might end up needing that machine.
Jay, you get on the plane with this. I think it only weighs like 30 pounds.
Oh my gosh, look at that thing.
Yeah. Joking aside, like, should we bring that? I mean, this is $1,400, but should we bring, like, there are like very small printers where we could actually like be in a showroom and maybe like Ahmed, you could design sort of a physical ID card, and we actually might be able to like print things out in the showroom and just sort of be able to. So one of the concerns that I have is like time lag, right? Like, let's say we get there and we find that this is a good idea, but we have no ability to execute on it, and we can't find that kind of hardware in Zambia, or we don't know where to buy it. I mean, Olivier, maybe you could tell me, like, is there a like, if we wanted to go buy a small printer while we're there, is there a mall nearby that would have that kind of thing and it would be easy to get to?
Exactly like what kind of a printer, like the one you just sent, like the one Mark just sent?
I think that may be higher end than what we need. Ahmed just sent something. Let's see what that is.
This is the cheaper version. Because I'm just concerned that you'd spend $1,400 and it's not really what we need in the end.
Yeah.
So this is a cheaper version, and we could print something with a QR code similar to our current ID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For such things, I would recommend you come with it. Okay. You might not find the exact one like that one.
Yeah.
Because so a few months ago we needed a label machine like that one, but smaller size, and Chris had to sort of send one from.
Yeah. Jay, I'm inclined to just buy this and ship it to your house. Can you bring that?
Yep.
Do you agree that that would be a good thing to have?
Sure.
And,
I think that we should do the I love the fancier versions that Mark is sending through, and I actually think that stuff gives you a little bit more like feeling of ownership and identity and stuff like that. I think I would recommend the $100 prototype version of the thing we tested.
My fear with that is I have no idea how long that would take to set up, or what it would look like, or how hard it is to use. Yeah. So I would reserve that for later use. But
yeah. And Jay, I don't know if you saw the price. That one's $1,400, and the one that Ahmed sent is $70. So
yeah, a $900 second version. So
yeah,
but it's all stuff that you could.
The thinking here, Jay, is that this one that Ahmed sent, we could print out a label and put it on a little sturdier piece of thing, and that could be sort of the equivalent of a card for now.
Yeah, this is I just found that actually, so there's a set of blank cards for photo ID cards and stuff like that, so you can just stick it on this. It's like PVC plastic.
Great.
Okay.
And one thing also to be aware is as you build this out, it's pretty easy you could buy these cards and have them produced somewhere else and ship them in, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, we got to figure out how we actually minimize the operating costs of it, but that's a whole later discussion. Obviously digital is marginal cost free. If we add marginal cost of $1 to every resident, anyway.
Yeah. And also the way that I designed the card for the resident is just a QR code. It doesn't need the picture or have the picture even in the design, in the digital version. And with this printer, it's just the only thing is that it wouldn't be able to print a picture, right, in color. But I think in this case, if you just have the QR code and the name, that's fine.
I think could it do a picture in black and white? We could design this, right?
It might be able to do a picture in black and white, but I'm not 100% sure how that would come out. If that would even be recognizable.
Right.
I also don't know how important it is.
Yeah.
It's certainly not important for a. I guess the thing here is that what we want. The thing that I'm looking for is pivotability, meaning that if we find that we want to prototype a different process than what we had in mind, this would give us the ability to prototype that very quickly. Is mainly the thing that I'm thinking about. And for $100 to have the ability to prototype a resident ID card or a sticker that we put on a guard's door, on the car, not on the guards, on the contractor's car. I think that ability to prototype something quickly and see how well that's going to work is going to be hugely valuable.
Yeah.
Jay, are you able to? Do you think you'd be able to run with this? Just given that I'm getting on a plane right now, and just order this and have it shipped to your place. If that's a problem, I'm happy to try to run with it. I'm a little concerned that that if I, for whatever reason, can't get online in the plane, it may be difficult.
Hey guys, I actually have the exact same one. If we want to try it before we get it, whatever we want to try actually is something I can just try.
Good, I love it. Ahmed has one. That means he can prototype, and anything that he prototypes, we can replicate. We should bring the same one Ahmed already has.
Yeah, and that's the same one that I sent here.
Great.
We will get that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for testing to be easier to do with that one.
Jay, just for clarity, I just want to make sure. So that's something you're comfortable owning the to-do on and to order that.
Yep.
Okay, great. And make sure you get whatever rolls of paper or whatever we need to be able to get that set up.
Yep.
Okay, guys, this is. I'm able to go a little bit longer, but I want to respect people's time here. Do we want to? Let's do a check-in. Do people have the ability to go for another half an hour, and do you want to do that, or would it be better to just add some more thoughts to this asynchronously now that we've had this, and people can just add ideas to this document and start discussion threads here.
I actually have another meeting work meeting to jump into that
Great.
starts now.
Great. Well, we'll let you go. Ahmed, for you, for sure, let's do it asynchronously. So if you have other ideas, add comments into the Google Doc thing here, and then we can, or on Slack, either way, and we'll be able to respond and get back to you.
Sounds good.
Talk to you later, Ahmed. Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Hey, Mark, Olivia, Mark, you guys, how do you want to handle?
I'm still around. I do have time.
Yep. Good.
Mark, would it be easier to stay on the call, or would you prefer to handle things asynchronously?
No, I'm happy to stay on the call.
Okay. Great. So I have about 20 minutes before I need to board. So let's plan on that. Should we take another scenario? Mark, you have what scenario sort of gives you some consternation? Just to give you the floor a little bit.
Like the number one, on the number one, and I want I guess I'd add guards use it, but just for one piece, and then they're doing it for Poniso. And so I think that goes back to Jay mentioned something earlier about getting on a call with Poniso and kind of going through the people coming in and out. But I think that would be one concern, would be that it's used, but it's used sort of like, yeah, we're using it, but it's not actually impacting them positively.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other ones, yeah, the tech issues are big. I don't know until you guys get there on the ground. I mean, obviously Olivia has a good understanding of this, but like, I don't know how significant this will be. I know. Yeah, I don't. That one's just such an open, so open for me. But that's a concern for sure. If it's a big issue, then yeah, it kind of changes the game. Like, we have to think more seriously about. I think probably moves things more to the security guard side, and then away from contractors and away from the residents. So we go more for the paper route. But you know, it'll be interesting to see, like, when you actually get on the ground, what happens. But that would be one scenario I'd be very concerned about. As far as the other scenarios, I think I think scenario 2 is possible, but I think you guys are going to see that there. So I'm not that worried that we're going to find out a week later that there's pushback. I think you guys are going to know pretty early what that looks like, hopefully.
So on that first scenario, what do you think? Excuse me. How do we discover it? And do you have thoughts on things we can or should do now to help avoid it?
I mean, I think getting the guard, it's going to be not just getting the guards to scan, but actually like really thinking about this process from Poniso's standpoint of like, he needs to want to rely on this as his tool to see who's coming in and out. So going back to Jay's point, for having some type of like scan or even photograph cars coming in as a way of alerting Poniso of what's actually going on, even if they're not scanning well, hopefully they're still scanning the people coming in. But if there's some kind of way of also taking additional information down, like, oh, and here's a truck that came in, or here's something like almost like a log. You know, like police do this where they log stuff that they see throughout the day, and if there's something weird, it kind of pops up in their system. Like that would be kind of what I was thinking. Poniso would have this high level of, oh, hey, like, you know, here's something strange that happened, or here's some event, and then I think he would want to rely more on, or push the guards more to keep producing and putting in there.
Yeah. Jay, do you know if we have if they have a security cam at the gate?
They are planning their security cam situation, but I don't think that they've installed it. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, Mark, do you know of a security cam that we should? Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
I know that they had talked about it, but I don't know if it's installed. And we can put, I mean, I don't know how we would put one there. I feel like it would be, you'd need solar and some type of backup, and then connectivity. It could be a lot of work.
We can use just record for a few hours each day while we're there. I went and got these little tiny tripods for me and Mbanga to run the interviews. I could get we could use one of our 3 phones. How much power do I get out of my free 3 phones, and how much battery storage is on, or how much data storage is on there?
It's a good chunk. I don't know the actual amount, but I mean, they also take micro SD cards.
Can we just like leave it there for, even if it's not the whole day, like any of the days we're there, we leave it sitting there at a little bit of a distance for, call it a particular set of hours. We bring it back, we download it to our hard drives, we put it back out the next day. We may not be able to like leave it there on an ongoing basis, but we at least get it for a period of time. Because they have video cameras, right? The phones we bought.
Yeah.
Should I get a couple more little stands? These were $20.
Yeah, get a couple more of those. Mark, do you know, like, so is it an SD card, or like, should we get like a custom, like a thing that is geared as a security cam rather than a phone?
Well, the way you're using it's more like a long-term video, like motion. I mean, you could do like a motion detector. There's like a motion detector app, I'm sure, for Android that you could use to then record video every time there's motion. The other option is, I don't know, like a GoPro with time lapse. I don't know.
Mark, would you mind doing a little investigation into this?
Yeah, I can investigate that.
Yeah, because I think that the more I think about this, the more I think we should actually bring something. And I added to my list to look into solar chargers. So if we can bring something that actually has some USB something or other that has a solar connection, I think we should bring that as well. All of this stuff is returnable if we end up not needing it. So we can bring it there and back. And Jay, I hate to sort of put this on you, but if you are able to sort of have enough room in a suitcase to like check a bag or whatever, you mentioned that earlier. Like if there's stuff that's like bulky, and you're willing to do that, I think that would be very much appreciated.
And I have not yet thought through, obviously my flight to Johannesburg, I can definitely bring 2 bags. So I'll just bring 2 bags, and I'll just look into whether it's complicated on the Johannesburg to Lusaka flight. But I'm pretty sure that also, it was on South African Airways, and I'm pretty sure that had 2 bags as well, or at least 1 free, 1 paid, whatever. I may need to watch the weight. What weight is typically an issue on these types of flights, so we have to not buy too many heavy things. We may also need to watch out for how much business equipment we bring in, just from an point of entry perspective. Like usually it's like, they're like, you brought how many $1,000s of technology with you? I don't know if that's an issue.
I think even with all of this, we're still like under $1,000. The phones were like $120 each. Mark, don't come back with a $1,400 recommendation for your security cam thing, but
So Jay, when you're coming, you can just pack them in the suitcase and maybe just put like I don't know if you can have like just some normal things on top, like some candies or just anything that's not easy to like visit. They won't like get down to the back to see exactly each and everything that's in there.
Got it. Okay, cool. That's good advice. I don't know if we need some sort of really expensive camera type solution. I think that like I would be perfectly fine just leaving one of the little phones there doing its recording, so that it's possible that we already have the devices that we need. But I'm open to spending some more money and getting some more things that feel really transparent.
Jay, the only reason I'm assuming that this is only going to be a couple $100s or something like that. So Mark, if that turns out not to be true, then we can revisit it. But I'm assuming this is relatively inexpensive and lightweight, and that a cam that's geared towards this is actually going to be better suited than a phone. Plus, we only have 3 phones, and I'm concerned about I think you'll want to have 1 in a showroom perhaps. And maybe 2 on site for the guards. I'm concerned that the phones may be a scarce commodity, and that I don't like the idea of taking 1 up to do this. So, but we can do it as a backup if we need. But I think that just if we can find a security cam that's geared towards this, it'll be better. And I'm hoping, and just to put it out there, I'm hoping that whatever we find is something that we can leave set up, because I think that having something that is uploading to the cloud on a regular basis would also be something that we could then use for further research and to see how things are going. Like we could correlate our logs with the stuff of what we're seeing at the gate or something like that. So I'm actually hoping that this is something that could be a longer term benefit of research as well.
Sure. I would suggest that we don't spend too much time thinking about how to get the right solar enabled cloud like uploading solution in the next like 1 hour. Like I think that we should find the quick hacky version of the thing that's going to give us learning for right now, and we can solve the ongoing hardware problem later, including the ongoing research problem later. So like I think go fast, go simple, assume it's going to last us a month, and then it's going to get stolen.
Okay, I agree with all of that. So,
or like the whole cloud thing, like that's a later problem. Like right now, we just need something that someone can get the data from somehow.
Yeah. So guys, I'm realizing I should probably get to my gate and end it here. You guys are welcome to continue to have this conversation, but I think that you may need to start a different Zoom meeting to do it. And then I think it would be great to work on this asynchronously. I think once I get internet on the plane, I'll be back online. I'll be on Slack. If you guys want to add more comments into this document, that's great. And I think we can talk about this with Sid this afternoon as well. Any concerns with posting this on YouTube? I think that'll actually be, I think this is actually a very valuable thing, and maybe something that the community at large, and certainly Sid, would be able to participate in.
Nope. Oh, good for me. Yeah. Right. I think if you have time while you're on the plane there, Nolan, maybe you could just summarize up at the bottom of the document all of the actions and ideas that came up, just so that we can really easily, and maybe they even pop to the top of the document so we can super easily find them. And that way we're checking the boxes off now, and then continuing to check off things like, or know our kind of like fallback solutions over there and stuff like that.
Yeah, I already have that down there, Jay. So can you scroll to the bottom of the document just to see? Because let's run through them real quick. I'm gonna oh, sorry, you're gonna look at the laser printer.
Yes.
Mark is gonna do a security cam.
Yep.
I'm gonna look at solar chargers, and we already have printer for IDs. So that's my initial stab. I feel like maybe there was one that I'm missing there. Was there other stuff that you recall?
I think one that was on my side was it just had to do with like meetings we set up later with Toniso. So like that after we do our one-on-one with him, we plan to do kind of like daily check-ins at the end of the day with him, sort of like talking about how it's all going. And there's nothing ahead of time other than knowing that that's going to be a part of our plan and requests of him while we're there and following up.
Yeah, I think these are sort of actions of things that we need to bring. And then you're right, there's a whole separate section of like, what are some things that we need to be mindful of while we're there? And I'll go through the doc and sort of capture those.
Do we need maybe just like some quick kind of like printed out like visuals that explain the app, like 3 steps showroom with visuals, and maybe even 3 steps with visuals for the guards. Someone could try to design ahead of time that's more visuals than words.
I think that's an interesting suggestion. Let me take that one onto the plane with me. So I have that captured. Anything else?
That's mostly it for me.
Great. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I think this was incredibly helpful. I think we came away with a lot of really good ideas. So I think I'm really appreciative of the great thinking that you guys brought into this. All right,
you.
I'll see you guys in Dallas.
Okay.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
I'll follow up on security. See you guys.